Yeah, hi everybody, and welcome to the closing discussion for the Kelly Reichardt retrospective, which was curated by Louis Mathew. We are grateful to him for doing this for us. Unfortunately, he's not able to participate in the discussion, but we are glad he introduced this wonderful filmmaker to all of us. And this discussion for First Cow will be led by Jayita Sengupta. Jayita is presently a professor of English in Cooch Behar Panchanan Burma University. She was a Fulbright Nehru Teaching Fellow in the Department of Comparative Literature at Stanford University in 2013 and a Charles Wallace Fellow at Oxford in 2000 and a visiting fellow at Taiwan University in 2013. Her research interests include narrative theory, translation, partition literature, and gender studies. Besides being an academic, Jayita also has published her short stories with her paintings. Welcome to you, Jayita, to Talking Films Online and to this particular session. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Gita, for such a wonderful introduction. I really feel honored to be invited here by you and Nikhila. And also, it was wonderful to watch this particular film because this is the first of the films that I have been watching by Kelly. It's Reichardt. Is that how you pronounce it? Kelly
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't really watch any of her other films, but I understand that you have been, doing a retrospective on all her films. So maybe I'll catch up online to listen to the other films, and maybe you could, share the films with me. But it was wonderful watching this film, and as I gathered that this was an adaptation from a screenplay by Reichardt and Jonathan Raymond, and which also has been, even the screenplay was adapted from Raymond's novel, The Half-Life, published in 2005. The casts in this particular film include John Magaro, Orion Lee, Toby Jones, Ewan Bremner, Scott Shepherd, and the others. The film had its premiere at the Telluride Film Festival on August 30th, 2019, and it was also selected for the 70th Berlin International Film Festival. And it also won the Best Film Award in 2020, New York Film Critics Circle Awards. As I was watching the film, the first thing that occurred to me that this is really a dark film. And though there's a lot of comedy into it, it's a kind of a dark comedy, and it cuts across time and space. So there is an intersection of, between the past and the present, which was wonderful. I think as a film, it was handled wonderfully by the director. Talking about the storyline, the exposition of the film it starts with a woman walking her dog on the riverside, and by chance she discovers two skeletons lying together side by side, and that's the takeoff point from where we move back into the 1820s and learn about the friendship between two odd characters, Otis Figowitz, who is a quiet chef traveling in Oregon country, with a group of very aggressive fur trappers who from time to time harass him for food, and he has to find food for them. And it's in one of those ventures of finding food for his team, he meets Lu, a Chinese immigrant who is on the run for killing a Russian man. So they kind of strike a friendship. On the first night, he Cookie, as he's called, the nickname that is used for Figowitz, hides him in his tent, and also sees to it that he can escape across the river. But later on, they meet again, and they reunite, and they spend days in Lou's shack. And that's where they share the dreams, because this particular film is also about American dream. And It's also about, how capitalism begins in America, how it comes to America, and how American dream is kind of, um, it's a kind of an illusion, but at the same time, it has, the kind of values with which, the new America, started, uh, 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 you know, uh, its very beginnings, and it's the beginnings of America, the idealism that goes with, the American dream. So much of that is very subtly stated here in the friendship, which would, remind one of Huck Finn and some of the other, texts which talk about the American dream. So coming back to the story, Lou talks about his desire to own a farm, and Cookie talks about his opening a bakery and a hotel in San Francisco. In the meantime, coming to the title of the film, um, the first cow, the first bovine cow that comes into this particular space through a very rich English man who is also part of this country and who owns a proper house, and he imports this cow, uh, and the cow stands as a kind of a symbol of maybe capitalism, maybe sort of a change, maybe American dream, so many things together, actually. So Lou and Cookie, they have an idea. They steal in the night to the chief factor's yard, and they steal the cow's milk, and they make biscuits out of it, which sells like hotcakes in the market, and they become quite famous. And they sort of start a business. But the chief factor, gets suspicious, and he invites, Lou and Cookie to a gathering where he also invites a very important person, the captain, for his business and other things. And in the passing, he just mentions that his cow is a very highly bred cow, but it's not producing the milk that he had expected. So, that kind of rings a bell of warning to these two persons, I mean, these two friends. And they kind of think of, giving up the idea of pursuing with this business, stealing the cow's milk. But for one last time, they take a chance, and it happens to be the very last time, and it's fatal for them because they get caught. And in the process, what happens is that Cookie meets with a head injury, and Lou is able to flee downstream. But when they do meet again, and they are thinking of fleeing together, it so happens that they're not able to do it because of Cookie's head injury, and he just stumps down, and he says that he wants to lie down, and you find both the friends lying together, and it ends in an ambiguous note. But that's where once again you come back to the present, where the two skeletons are found side by side. So it's a very it's a film which has a lot of dark humor, and at the same time it also has these positive values which are missing in today's time. So I felt that this particular film has much to say about our present, where we are constantly thinking of divisions which are there, uh, divisions which are geographical divisions, which are class divisions, race divisions. Everything could be subsumed under the category of race. Um, so I guess, even though this is a film which is based on American Dream, but since it is cutting across time and space, subtly it has a message to pass on to us now. And also what I find is that it's a very realistic film because whatever I understand from the cinematography, I found, the forests are not forests which are forests you find in a fairy tale. They're very realistic kind of forests. I mean, uh, with all the kind of dangers that might be lurking there, it's a wild forest. And it also talks about the survival of the fittest and the hardships of survival in such, wild surroundings, the beginnings of civilization, and also the interrogation about what really is civilization, what really is sophistication of our times. So even in the wilderness, if there could be such a friendship, that friendship possibly is something that is missing in America now. considering the times that we have faced very recently about in America with regard to racism and things like that, because these things keep coming up. And in literature, in American literature, we find it everywhere, talking about this racism and this melting pot theory, which didn't really quite work. We still question it. And just as, the American dream also, in a way, failed um, with time. So that's, briefly that's what I felt about this particular film. And what is most interesting is, in the beginning, you have the quote from Blake's Proverbs of Hell: the bird, a nest; the spider, a web; man, friendship. That has really much to say about what is required in today's world. That is friendship across divides, across all kinds of differences. It's, after all, the human souls which matter, the the understanding which matters, which kind of bridges all kinds of gaps that might be there in across geography, across race, across other things which might separate two people. That's what I felt about this particular film. I'm sorry, I don't really have much to say. I mean, this is just my, impressionistic point of view after watching the film. And I guess it could be now open to discussion so that I could also learn much from you, who probably have done a thorough study. But I thank both of you once again, Nikhila and you, for introducing me to this director, and also, sharing the film with me. I really enjoyed it. I watched it twice, as I told Gita in the morning. I need to watch it twice because it's not something that you just watch once and you just take it with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jayita, for your introduction. Okay, it's now open for discussion. Anyone would like to come in first? Okay, while you gather your thoughts, maybe I would just like to flag a few points. Yeah, the film is definitely about friendship, a friendship that stretches across different nationalities. Lou is a Chinese, and Cookie is American. But at the same time, both are outsiders in that particular context, because Cookie belongs to Boston, and he is come here for the first time with this trapping company, and he's a cook in that group. And the film, of course, is once again, like a lot of Reichardt films, is set in frontier territory, and that is where this friendship begins. And that opening shot, of the skeleton, of course, is something that connects to, it kind of anticipates the end of the film. And to that extent, it is unlike other Reichardt films, which are more open-ended. But at the same time, there is an element of open-endedness even in this film, because although we know that the skeletons belong to these two, how they died, were they finally shot dead by the chief factor's men, or did they starve to death? How it actually happened is still left open, left through the imagination of the audience.
There is a note of ambiguity there in the ending. There's a note of ambiguity.
Yes, certainly. But that entry of the barge, is almost like an establishing shot for the film, because it kind of establishes the centrality of commerce. And it is that commerce which, in a way, also kills these two, because entrepreneurship is something that very clearly the film has a critique of, is a critique of entrepreneurship, and especially the fact that it is built on deceit and also built on greed. And that is where the
Yes.
critique of capitalism sets in. Because there is this question of wanting more, you know. Initially, they are quite happy with the money they make, but then, you know, they have capitalism, you know, and materialism, if it's attendant materialism, sucks you into that, you know, vortex where you are not satisfied with the profit, and then it begins to cultivate greed in us, which then, you know, we have seen ultimately leads to death. There are, of course, other things, but let me leave it open to discussion to for the others as well to come in. Anyone else would like to take over?
There is some very fine strokes, there's a lizard which is in the
Yes.
on the leaf, and then how he, takes the lizard, and so that it's comfortable. It is very sensitive touches which are wonderful. I mean, it's not just a
Yes.
friendship between the two, but it's a kind of a oneness with nature, the sense of harmony that is there, despite the wilderness, despite the hardship that they have been facing. So some very positive touches, strokes, very fine strokes, which are found in the film.
Yeah, Nikhila.
Yeah, I'll just start on the video. Thank you very much, Jayita, for introducing the film and taking us through some of the key moments in the film. It's always useful because some of us watch the film fairly early in the week, and to kind of remember the film through such a narration is very useful. I had a couple of points about the film. One was, I don't remember the exact words of the dialogue, but King Lou says something to the effect of, they are there in that place at a time, before history is made. That is, they are at the cusp of history making. So he sees himself as, in a time and place where history is being, is yet to be made, or they are going to be making history, or things like that. But as we see in the end, it leads to such unfortunate circumstances, and all their dreams of making it in a new place, with their own survival skills, I feel that was quite, I mean, that is very tragic, that they saw themselves as probably makers of some kind of history, some aspiration to make something of their lives, which had to end in the way it did. For all that they did was steal milk. So, but the price they had to pay for, that act, it seemed completely disproportionate with the nature of the act. That is one point. The second point, after watching, so many of Kelly Reichardt's films, this is the fourth film we are watching. I think she's extremely adept and masterful at subtlety, at showing connections between, between human beings, these relationships where there are chance encounters. There is no drama about them. They meet, and yet, as long as they are there, they mean so much, at that moment. For instance, Wendy and Lucy, we saw the relationship between Wendy and the security personnel over there. And here as well, between these two, I mean, there's so little which is explicitly said, or I mean, there's no drama about it. There's no drama of rescue or none of the Jai Viru moments of brotherhood here, but so understated and yet so deep and meaningful. I thought that was very, very interesting in the film. The last point that I want to make is also about this seamless editing that she does. It took me quite a while to realize that we have gone back to the past. Like in certain women, it took me quite a while to realize that we have moved on to the next story and the next set of women. So it's almost like, I mean, in this aspect, she seems to be fairly, she's unconventional in many other ways, like the long shots and the long takes, the barge moving across the screen, and we're just meditating on the screen. So what is the significance of that, only comes home to us in retrospect. So there's this seamlessness in the editing where we don't really know that we have slipped to another past, another location, as if history does not come to us in disjunctures or in distinct moments, but it kind of flows from one to the other. So these were some of the very interesting aspects that struck me about the film. Thank you very much.
Yes, Nikila. I mean, yeah, just one point, as you just mentioned about, the barge coming in. I was thinking that this particular film also has, possibilities of researching into, the eco-critical stance that it's taking. I mean, the entire, scene where the barge is moving, it's almost, it's cutting through the pristine territory. It's almost like an intrusion. So that also creates a kind of, what should I say, a kind of a warning that is something coming. I mean, that's of course, connected with the title. So even with this, sense of harmony that is there in nature, where civilization is yet to begin, the history is yet to begin. So it's a kind of a comparison that, it's forcing us to make what really is civilization. I mean, if it takes away these values from us, then what are we left with? So some questions which are very subtly raised. I guess more we talk about it, these things will come up, Thank you so much. Sorry for intruding again into the discussion. But anyway, I couldn't just stop myself. Yeah,
no,
Gita,
please come in whenever you feel you have something to say. Most welcome. Anyone else?
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was indeed an interesting watching experience. I cannot deny that. And it was a different kind of movie, I believe, from the other ones that we have watched. And I see a resemblance in the kind of relationship we saw between Jamie and Beth Travis, wherein it was not about a romantic relationship. It was here also we don't get to see these two characters exploring that avenues for themselves within their relationship, and that I think was very beautifully presented and then throughout. And like Nikhila ma'am said, it's also about survival instincts or survival of the fittest is once again narrated here, that we saw in Meek's Cutoff as well. And although the entire settling in America or setting up colonies, all of that itself was a masculine enterprise, and exploring the frontier becomes an extension of that defining or redefining that kind of a masculinity. And here I believe being set in a frontier space, it feels like uh, Kelly Reichardt is trying to narrativize a different kind of masculinity that is present amidst the one and amidst the popular one that we are already familiar with, and which doesn't get narrativized so much in be it American, so-called American cinema in general, or the frontier cinema in particular, because we see masculinity also associated a lot with violence, and Meek's cut off and the characters, how they treat a Native American, and how they're all so much into being violent and being rude to him and punishing him in one way or another. That tendency we don't get to see in this film, and I think it's trying to present um, a different understanding or different presentation of masculinity, which doesn't have to rely on men being violent, or men trying to prove themselves to the other men around them through violence, so through any kind of violence. It doesn't and the scene that Jayita referred to, the shot that Jayita referred to about what he does when he sees a lizard lying on its back, and that is a major I think that could be a major signifier to be read in this line, and that's how I see it actually. And with the minimalist filmmaking is something to be noted. It does feel like, for us, it does feel like she is the director is indeed given more time to. There is a stagnation and there is a movement. It's not just relying on the movement of the camera. It's more about what goes on within that frame only. And she is so Kelly Reichardt particularly so hell-bent on not moving the camera as the object moves, and making us think about, like Nikhila ma'am said, she invites us to ponder over the significance of it, or is it trying to convey something. And I also agree with the history making aspect, and that Nikhila ma'am mentioned. I don't want to say much about it. And there's one other thing that I felt about this kind of a narrative, and which I don't know whether it's completely appropriate to read it in this sense, but this also feels like establishing what the Bechdel test or the parameters that is there, but in a reverse format, wherein there are no significant women characters, and there are only two men I mean, there are a lot of other men as well, but these two male characters lead the narrative, and these two male characters also um, don't discuss or don't talk about women, or having a women for themselves in the household, for any of the other chores to help them around, none of which is discussed. And this feels like the Bechdel parameter is presented to us in a reverse format. I'm not sure if I'm making sense with this, but that's what I felt overall after watching the movie. Yes.
Thank you, Mahima. Would anyone like to step in at this point? Yeah, Jayanto, please go ahead.
Yeah. I really don't have any significant points to make just a few observations and a few questions, which I would like us to explore, to find out about. We have all talked about the minimalism in the films of Kelly Reichardt, and I think that's a point well made, that it is not but the fact is that after I have watched, say, 4 of these films, behind that minimalism, or underneath that minimalism, there seems to be a kind of a grand design, that is not to take away anything from the genuineness of the minimalistic style that she has, but the very fact that she places 3 out of the 4 films that we have seen in this retrospective in Oregon, now that I think is significant as far as I'm concerned, as if the wilderness, as if the difficulty of the terrain, as if this whole business and the history of the Oregon Trail, which is a part of American history, she is trying to make a symbol of behind these very slow, long takes, what she is trying to tell us probably is that, this American dream is a very difficult dream to pursue. The road is full of hardships. Even the kind of destination that one may have in mind, is also not very clear. It is actually about struggling rather than arriving anywhere. And also, there was a question in my mind about this whole business of how this seemingly very simple film could be about a kind of a critique of capitalism in a way. We have heard of the spinning jenny. We have heard of the steam engine as symbols of the modern industrial revolution, which lead to capitalism. But a cow, I think she is consciously trying to make a point about something, that greed, ambition, or something which has always been a part of the human psyche. That is what she is trying to tell here. And although there is a kind of lesson in the story, as it were, call it feminism of a very subtle kind, call it criticism of the human mind, human behavior, or the pursuit of a materialistic goal, the fact remains that all her films are so closely associated with nature and the struggle of man. In Meek's Cutoff, it is very obvious. These people are walking the Oregon Trail. But here, everybody, in other films also, everybody is walking. Everybody is trying to get somewhere, and they're not even sure and if they will get there. And the filmmaker is trying to tell us that she is not very sure if it is worth the effort in trying to get where you are trying to get, So this minimalism, hiding a complexity of purpose, of design, is something which I find very interesting in these films. Thanks.
Thank you, Jayantu. Anyone else?
Yeah, could I say something?
Go ahead.
I don't know how right I am, but I found that transition from the skeletons and this lady looking in the undergrowth, whatever that is, right, to the story which is supposed to be real, a kind of a narrative shift which is very important and which you find in postmodern fiction. So that is something that was interesting, and the whole idea of creating an imaginative story out of the 2 skeletons, and what is the hidden history behind all this. So we've got other histories, or the conventional history of the American dream. So we're filling all that up into the story when we get to skeletons. So I think for me, that was very interesting, and a very, very interesting way of narrating whatever happened in the film. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajan. Any other comments, questions?
My observation is not about what we are discussing, but what I strongly felt was, see, the early 19th century, when explorators and the whatever Dasguptas is hinting at, the towards industrialization, many so many agriculture related developments took place in North America, but they have hidden, they maintained that knowledge very secretly. Secretive they maintained. So they did not let that idea to go out of their place. So many people have to spend their lifetimes and lives to learn the technique over there and method of rearing animals or growing crops or processing things, and bring it to Europe. From there, it has spread to rest of the world. So I think Kelly might be having that in her mind when she took us to 1820s. That is my hunch. So when you see from that angle, I think it can illuminate many other things. That's only what I want to say. Thank you.
Sridhar, I didn't get your last point. What angle?
See, when you see the early science growth, so it is not that easy or smooth going. The North American inventions and innovations, they maintained lots of secrecy, and they even killed people and did not let the things to go out of them, whether it is related to crops or the stock raising or manufacturing, anything. So a kind of, this is all early 19th century phenomena. So like this, many innovators and explorers went across world and spent whole of their lives. When you go into their lives and biographies, it will be really, really precarious to come out with anything from there with related to inventions. So here these two friends wants to own a cow and start their own business, all that. I think Kelly is informing us those trajectories. So I felt strongly like that. There are no movies, I don't know, but there are books, lots of books that talks about these early scientific innovations. So after England, we have witnessed in the late 19th, actually the Industrial Revolution took place after Second World War, not before that. Whatever we talked about in a quantum leap in production or technology or anything, it happened after 1950s, not before that. So these early explorers have spent their lives, generations also, but the North Americans did not let it go out, their knowledge. So maybe Kelly has this in mind while taking us to 1820s. This is my hunch. Also, the Dasguptas are also said, Industrial Revolution, the trajectory of Industrial Revolution. So more than about movie, I'm talking about history here.
Okay, okay.
Are you trying to say that they were killed because they, had the know-how to make those oily cakes, as they called it? I'm not able to get the.
No, their intention is to own a cow. If you
No,
see their,
they want to finally go to San Francisco.
even wherever they went for this theft, they also think that someone is invading them. In that way, they attacked, but they have stolen milk.
Mhm.
But they could not manage to steal a cow, which they wanted to own one.
Okay.
So, there are many actually 1820s when they deliberately mentioned it has importance.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think she must be has that in her mind. I don't know. Kelly's many things. Now she doesn't stay. It's not minimalist, but she's putting many much to think to viewer. As viewers, we have to invest a lot of other things
Yes.
to go with her movies in that way.
Yes.
Is there an indication within the narrative that it is set in 1820s?
Not exactly, but it certainly goes back in time. It goes back in time to the era of, the unexplored frontier region, which historically would be the early 19th century.
Even could be even 18th century.
Yeah.
No, Hellenistic world. I'm just kidding, Tara.
No, I am serious only. Whether is there a time marker within the narrative? So I think this 1820 is coming out outside of the narrative. It could be even 1820s too. I don't know. I'm not saying it. It could be anything. But it's certainly beginning of explorations in America and people flocking America, thinking that there is something to be, something to get out of it, explore it, uh, do something with it, uh, a kind of land of dreams. So, land of opportunities that is there. But I don't know whether exactly we can say it as 1820s, unless somebody who has read the novel and or the discussion around it, superimposing it on the narrative per se.
Yeah, I think I got the date from some of the reviews and the analysis that I read of the film online, and more than one mentioned 1820s as the date.
In the narrative, there is also mention to some of the fashion trends in England. And I think within the narrative, that's the only reference we can find, I guess.
Yeah, there is reference to France, Spain, everything.
But I guess this is a very interesting point, Tara. Nowhere in the narrative actually 1820s is mentioned. And, similarly, like Gita, I found that in the review. But there might be something in the novel. There must be some kind of mention. Otherwise, all the reviews do mention 1820. I mean, not even 20s. That's very surprising. But this is an interesting point because within the film, nowhere not even in the beginning, in the prologue, it is mentioned, the time is mentioned. The time is absolutely left to the imagination of, I mean, their understanding of history, because that's about the time, but not 1820s. The exact date is, that we have been referring to is from a reading of reviews. So somebody who has possibly read the novel would be able to say, because since this is an adaptation, but an important point to note, surely. Thanks for pointing it out.
Anyone else would like to come in? Any more aspects of the film that you would like to talk about?
Shall I?
Yes, please go ahead, sir.
About the relationship between these two so-called friends, it is also, one is actually close with the nature, as Jayita pointed out, the way he treats that lizard and the way he treats the things around him, looking for them, is more one in tune with it. Is not actually kind of explorer in the sense of ravaging it. So, but the other guy is clearly knows his position in history. What is the opportunity here and how to tap it? So he's very capitalist in that sense. He says we need to establish a hotel, a bakery, and we need capital for it. We need to do this. He is the one who eggs on him to undertake it. So in that sense, he's a Chinese fellow, a capitalist enterprise. He has come for the land of opportunities, and he finds this guy who has certain talent, and he wants to harness that talent to uh, make a fortune. So in that sense, these two have different characters, but they come together for a particular enterprise, and which doesn't succeed. That is an important thing. So it says again, it's a comment on the capitalist enterprise uh, uh, which America represents today, and it is built on lot of tragedies, even in terms of the capitalist. Though, as Dasgupta was also trying to point out, uh, they are trying to go somewhere, but they are not able to achieve it. So it's a kind of a failure. Uh, that is pointing towards the foundation of America itself is based on such tragedies. The kind of capitalism that America represents today is founded on such tragedies, I think. That's the point. And what America represents and what actually even today America is again represented by our other movies. The rural settings and what is happening there. The So in that sense, comes out as a kind of a critic of American brand of capitalism and what it represents to us today, and actually what it would could be.
Thank you, Sakishwar. Anyone would like to add to it, or you have another point to make? Yes.
If I can.
Yeah, Nicola, please go ahead.
No, just to say that the Chinese this Lu is more like an entrepreneur searching for opportunities without the necessary wherewithal to at least at the moment to see his dreams take shape. So he thinks, oh, okay, so this is possible over here. maybe we can, establish connections, trade links with Canton, but I can't go there. There are he's thinking of various possibilities, also dreaming for a future which is, which he thinks can be had, but the tragedy is, that it's cut short. So I don't know if it is, if it's a comment through him on American capitalism, because he's an entrepreneur who wants to make use of, probably, or who sees the potential to encash on the skills of Cookie, which leads to, as I said earlier, consequences that are so disproportionate with the small aspirations that he has. So unlike Chief Factor or other people there who are clearly exploitative, Lou does not. He's a street smart, probably entrepreneur who sees a good opportunity when it, when he's faced with it. So so probably that's all. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Nikhila. Paniraj, Sanjay, any input?
Yeah, I would like to say that when he's talking about the beavers, right, and he's talking about making money on the beavers, this Cookie doesn't say anything, but from his facial expression, you find out that he's not too happy about that kind of business, right? And we normally talk about Australia as this place where wildlife was destroyed because of imperialism, but this movie actually says that, well, here wildlife is also going to be destroyed because of the imperialism here, and the cow coming in, and that's a European cow, and all those kind of things that he's talking about the what's this called, the pedigree of the cow, right? I think that's an important part of the movie, because he says, well, we're talking about pedigrees and we're talking about this. The idea of America and the idea of the salad bowl. So that's a kind of a postmodern America, and that's exactly what America was and is also perhaps today, right? So it's not really moved away in some ways, and it's very contemporary in many other ways also.
Any more comments?
A true capitalist enterprise would have been to pay for the milk and have a kind of arrangement, but that is not possible. The impossibility of having that kind of arrangement, which is necessary for the capitalist growth, is what the film is talking about, because it's not a kind of European capitalism or European modernity that we see in the colonial context. So this cheap factor, so he controls the entire business there, and you can't negotiate with him. His words are final, and he is backed up by a kind of army, the captain, and the entire setup there. So that kind of a desire for the enterprise, which will give rise to innovations and development, and a kind of colonial exploitative capitalism that is already there in a colonial context in America. I think that conflict can also be seen in this.
Right.
But I also think that the title of the film leads to these cow jokes about the economy and the fascist and the communist and the capitalist and who gets the milk and who gets the cow and what do they make you do, right? So I think that's a very subtle kind of humor about the idea, and that's why the cow becomes so important over there.
Also, the fact of the first cow, not just any cow, but the first cow, so it's kind of alluding to the pioneering nature of the task of exploring, these frontier regions. And the cow is as much an outsider to that terrain as Cookie and Lou are. And at the same time, they are able to use that for their own benefit.
Yeah, and also at the end, we see the cow kind of fenced in. So what could have been a productive arrangement between Chief Factor and this baker turns into such a, horrific and unproductive end. So that also says something about who is at the helm of affairs in capitalism. Even if one is talking about American capitalism, so what it allows for and what it suppresses and withholds, I think that is also quite interesting.
I was just searching the net about cows in the America. So this is what I found. The first cattle arrived in the Americas in 1525 at Veracruz, Mexico. The cattle were brought by the Spaniards to the New World. The first cows to arrive in what is now the United States came in 1624 at Plymouth Colony. So I don't know whether it's 1820s or much earlier.
Which means like there was no cow in America. All cows have been imported, right, Thara? That's exactly what I was thinking, that cow is something that is not part of the American natural system. It has been imported from elsewhere.
Yeah, so there is a discussion about that within the narrative too. So if the God wanted, he would have created it here. The God has not created it here. That point is also made within the narrative.
And there is another interesting thing, like, the cow had a mate and it also had a calf which dies in the journey. So the cow is left alone, which means like there is no possibility of reproduction anymore. So the first cow is, could also be, a sign of, with this cow, there could be an end to that. So that suggestion, end to any kind of capitalistic endeavors, if there is no other second cow that comes along. And I guess there is also a possibility for, a cultural discourse, because cow is something which is highlighted, and there is the comedy there, the comic humor that comes with it. So there are possibilities of more discourses over here if one should really go deep into it. So there's a subtle suggestion. That's what I felt. I don't know, I might be wrong.
Yeah, Jayanto?
Actually, Jayita, you're very right, because what I felt that this entire approach to filmmaking, particularly in this film, is kind of tongue-in-cheek, Look at the symbols. Look at the objects which are made to stand for human ambition, capitalistic growth and greed, which have been there much before any kind of industrialization. The earlier stories that we hear are stories of the baker. So the baking is something which predates any kind of industrialization by centuries, and millennia, actually. Milk, cow. So what she's actually trying to say, that capitalism is something which has always, I mean, it's my take on it. I may be entirely wrong, that there is something about human nature itself, which is greedy, which is ambitious, which wants more than what it has. It was kind of, given a push by the coming of the machine age, and in the wilderness, in the huge empty terrain of the American Midwest, it takes something as relatively harmless as a cow to engineer, to usher in that greed, which is always there in the human psyche. So I think it's a new look she's trying to take, or telling us to take, at this whole narrative about industrialization, about capitalism, which have nothing to do with human greed, which has always been there, much before, any of these things in a very obvious sense take place. I think that's the kind of stance which she takes, that is.
Actually, on a very different note, on a very different note, the cow reminded me of the myth of Kamdhanu. If you go back to the Indian myth of Kamdhanu,
absolutely.
So the idea of greed and everything that, that is mentioned, and Gita was also mentioning earlier. It just, sinks in with, so that's why I said, Cow itself, it's a comedy, it's a dark comedy, but there are possibilities of discourses, even cultural discourses, which, very subtly she probably is hinting at.
Also, this, my take on that 1820 being the date, it may have, it's come up in a lot of these reviews, and although in the narrative of the film, it's not there, but the very fact is that it was in 1820 and in the 1820s when the Oregon Trail and the American quest to reach the West, to search for new territories, new lives, new situations, when that which later became kind of synonymous with the American way of life, pushing forward towards something new. So that is why I think 1820 is a reasonable date to assume that is when the Oregon Trail, the first, caravan took across the huge plains of Oregon to reach the West. So I think that is where the date may have come from. It couldn't have been too much earlier because there was no America. In fact, the very fact, there was, but this imperialistic America was not there,
It's the beginnings of the American dream and the melting pot theory and the immigrants arriving. So probably that's how you kind of possibly zero in on the date, that 1820s. And one needs to go into the history of Oregon, actually, as you just mentioned. So maybe that's why the date is 1820, not 1820s. Probably that's the time, that's the year. One has to read the novel, I guess, to be sure, since it's an adaptation.
Any more comments?
Just the background note only. See, whatever discoveries or innovations we are talking, I was trying to connect. They have taken place world across. The Chinese say they discovered the gunpowder, or someone else say, but they never deployed in for a war. Chinese. Americans also, they did not deploy it for a trade, but they kept it as a secret and they didn't let anyone know it. So these people tried to break it. And once it reached Europe, it spread it got that marketing or the economic tinge and spread it across useful sites till it reaches the Europe. It didn't become useful science. So like that, in that way, she has really interesting way of presenting things, Kelly. In all her movies, she has the mix cutoff also. I could not dare to think much. So you have to question entire history textbooks written about those periods and identities. Reviewers are really very touch and go kind of thing. They neither know history nor the making of her presenting her way of presentation things. Maybe it takes a lot more time to engage with her movies, I think.
Yeah, surely. Yes.
I like Gita. You have given really good introduction to that whole backdrop. Whatever you said after that, nothing I can repeat. Whatever I am saying is repetition only, in a different words.
Thank you.
It would be nice to find everybody online. I mean, it's just like, the names, if Tara and the other Sridhar, it would have been nice to view online actually.
It's night now. We are half naked, so we will wear shirt and come.
We are online.
Yeah, Tara, but it's just showing Tara. It would have been nice if you had, put your video on. It would have been nice to see. We don't meet these days for eons of time. So at least we could, yeah. Thank you. You've grown your hair. That's the Corona hair, is it?
He's a man of Corona. Corona age.
Thank you for coming online. You too, Sridhar. We haven't met for such a long time. So that's why, when we come online, I guess the video should be on. Otherwise, it becomes so mechanical. These faces.
A small group, we can make it actually.
Yeah, it's a small group. So at least we can.
Beautiful group also.
Yeah.
Anything else regarding the film, or shall we bring the session to a close?
I can share some history books related to this. If you are interested,
please go ahead.
I can share.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, Gita.
Yeah,
This is
please.
Sanjay here.
Yeah, Sanjay.
Yeah. Actually, I've been watching all these films, and in all the films, what I noticed that when the film starts, we find some kind of movement. Like in Wendy and Lucy, we found trains moving in different directions. Then in Meek's Cutoff, then we have cars, with so many people, and they are moving. They keep on moving. They do not stop. We have in this same way in certain women. Again, there's a long shot like the train moves on the screen from right to the left. And again, in this film also, in First Cow, we see a cargo ship which is moving in the river, and that sets the tone of the film, like in all other films. So somehow at the level of the form, I find it very close to Baroque technique. I mean, somehow it doesn't, it always keeps on coming to my mind that whenever I read like any Baroque poetry of 17th century, poems of, let us say, Théophile de Viau in French, or paintings of Georges de la Tour. I don't know whether somebody has compared this particular film and all other films which we have seen throughout the month with the Baroque sensibility, a typical Baroque sensibility, where you see, first of all, the movement in our daily life. This is one of the characteristics in Baroque painting and in Baroque poetry. And in the nature, we find the display of light and darkness. So when it is night, we see the candle, for example, you will see exactly where the shadow is falling. When it is daytime, when we have sun, then people start their daily activities, and they are submerged in nature. It's very different from romantic sensibility. It's not like looking at nature from a distance. It's like they're inside nature, they're part of the nature. And in order to build that atmosphere, we find animals, for example, or all kinds of creatures, human beings, and like river. So what we call like animal kingdom, mineral kingdom, and vegetable kingdom. All these three kingdoms, they are put together. And one of the characters, I don't know whether the Chinese fellow or the other one, he says that I never stopped moving. I don't remember who said that. But both of them, in fact, they keep on moving. They are not fixed at one place. And that's why probably the first quote of William Blake, which comes, that the bird a nest, the spider a web, and man friendship. So it's not a fixed abode, but rather it's a network of relationship which we build with other human beings. And that's what they have been doing. So like in this, we find this cargo ship, and all these elements, they point to one thing, that how we are part of this nature where we keep on moving in our daily life. There is no stopping. Okay, there may be some kind of danger, some kind of drama in between, but life goes on. Like even the film when ends, then these two people, friends, they are lying on the ground, and there the film ends, but they're still hoping for something bright in future. So that is something, I don't know, striking for me, which reminds me of a very Baroque sensibility.
But Sanjay, the Baroque sensibility is also one which is, very ornate and extravagant. In architecture, for instance, the Versailles Palace is known to, kind of emblematize the Baroque style. And Kelly Reichardt is anything but extravagant or ornate in her representation, whether it is of character or of the way she builds her plot, the way she structures her narrative. It leans more towards minimalism. So I don't know whether we could actually call it Baroque, but I could be wrong. I mean, just as you're saying it, I was just thinking about Baroque,
yes,
extravagant.
There has to be something ostentatious if it is Baroque, which
Yes,
in Kelly Reichardt's films, they are not, There is a very deliberate kind of a simplicity, which we don't tire talking about, the minimalistic nature of a film. And also, I think the very fact that she starts with the three words, from the poem, that bird, a nest, and the spider, the web, and man, friendship, right? And that has to be taken with a pinch of salt. I think the whole purpose of her story, of her narrative, is to overturn these things, that in quest of a nest for ourselves, we become the spider who spin a web around others so that they don't get their nest, And friendship also is sometimes true, but sometimes it depends on need, on mutual gratification, on essentially something which is not very innocent, not very spontaneous, So there is that ironic nature about the story of human life, as it were, and human growth, certainly, and the beginning of capitalism, most certainly, that she wishes to point out through these three words, in my opinion.
Yes, and that was something that Tarkeshwar also alluded to, I think, when he describes the friendship as so-called friendship. So we don't know how genuine that friendship is, or whether it is something that is based on need. That ambiguity remains in the representation of the friendship. Any other input? Okay, Nikhila, shall we bring this session to an end?
I think Sanjay was making a point, even if we discount his statement about Baroque style, but I think the point that he was trying to make was interesting. I think he should complete it.
Okay, Sanjay, would you like to come in?
No, I don't know, because somehow this image of Baroque keeps on occurring to me, because you see in poetry, like starting from the end of 16th century till 1630, we have, I'm not talking about, of course, you said about the excesses, like in poetry we find the excess of metaphors, for example. But this is something very typical of Baroque. And of course, there are exaggerations also in Baroque about which you said. That is true. But in its essence, if I look at the Baroque sensibility, it is basically talking about the movement in life. That the life moves, basically taking from Heraclitus, the philosophy of Heraclitus, that when he says that you cannot take a bath twice in the same river, because the next day the river is not the same and the man is also not the same. So everything changes, because when we see the running water in the river, then the yesterday is not this, today is not the same as yesterday, and tomorrow will not be the same as today. So the flux, that the life in movement, in flux, that every day it is changing. They are looking for new pastures, they have new hopes, and finding some kind of treasure also. It's also kind of foreshadowing, like gold rush of let us say 1848. If you are saying 1820, it is just like very near. So that is like not like kind of portrait of daily life, but it's kind of moving images. And light and shadow is very important. Like if you look at any film, even from the very this one, I think it was mix cut off and cards are moving. Some of the shots were exactly looking like the paintings of Baroque paintings of 17th century. So we have painters like Georges de la Tour, exactly the light and shadow game which occurs in the evening and in the morning. When the life starts, every creature starts moving. The people are working for their daily bread. They have to work. It's not like romanticizing nature, but it's like the life moves along with sun. So sun guides everything. When it is dark, the life stops. Okay? When the sun rises in the morning, then everything keeps on moving. All the creatures, all the birds, animals, including human beings. And they are the part of nature. They are not looking at nature in a nostalgic way from a distance, which is like typical of romanticism. So in that sense, I said it is Baroque sensibility. and excluding those excesses which are of course in some of the poetry and paintings, but lot of scope for freedom, that you move out from the constraints. Like these two friends, they are also trying to move out from, break away from their constraints. So this is something typical. I don't know whether somebody has commented in those lines, but somehow this keeps on, this kind of image keeps on occurring to me. That's why I said that. Can we discuss?
Okay. Thank you, Sanjay. Any more?
About the friendship, one more point. They actually, when the factor and his group attack them, they go in two different directions. They don't go together. So Joe, he jumps into the river and he escapes, and this fellow doesn't jump into the river, he stays there. And when they meet, actually, it is also not, they wanted to meet each other. One fellow comes back for the money that they were hiding in the tree. The other fellow comes back to the home to see what is happening there. And it's by chance they come together. So it's quite interesting, their relationship and their characters and how they die together.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jayita, for leading the discussion of this film. And with this, we come to the end of the Kelly Reichardt retrospective. And we will keep bringing you more and more interesting films and sessions. So we look forward to your continued support. Thank you all very much for joining in. Good night.
Thank you, Jayita.
Thank you and good night.
Thank you,
Good night,
Jayita.
everyone.
Jayita,
Thank you very
join us.
much. Good night.
Thank you.
Jayita, join us next week as well, whenever you're free. Saturday, 9 p.m. And this is
Yeah,
for
I would be very
everyone.
glad to join. Nikhila, thanks for inviting me, both you and Geeta. And nice to see you, Thara. Nice to see all others. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay. Okay then. Good night. Thank you all. Bye.